With this swing drill, really start to explore the idea of error for learning as far as how can we almost create an error through kind of task, in this case very much club manipulation, and then really encourage actively areas such as improved rotation through the segments, improved areas such as vertical forces, torque through lower limbs, so for example how it then relates into the ground reaction forces, alongside them more kind of kinematically, for example how we can then start to really pull up through that handle, so some of the kinetic forces then, how we can pull up through the handle, elevate through that lead hip. So there's very much those connections between, for example, the kinematics, for example, the rotations, alongside then the kinetics, the forces produced through the floor, the pull up through that handle. So very much done through more so the idea of kind of tool, or in this case kind of club manipulation, through the idea of error for learning. Let's almost put the error in and then have the human adapt to then produce the movements required. For example, an area such as then improved rotation, improved elevation, and then improved then, for example, such as then almost kind of ground reaction forces. So even using a wedge in this case, so the idea of kind of split hands to that split hand position, as you kind of take your start position, almost just through kind of manipulation, place the club horizontal. So the club face, certainly as you'll see this when we look at it from the target line view as well shortly, is pointing absolutely vertically downwards. So in essence it's completely closed in a very kind of colloquial and informal definition. So once again, the idea kind of split hand, just kind of place the club so that club face is completely pointing downwards. Then through very much manipulation, task awareness, kind of movement perception, then can we start to move into impact, then in essence then deliver that club so the club face in a very kind of informal kind of colloquial definition would be square to the ball at impact. So once again into the start position, just using a wedge only, maximum just a wedge when doing this drill, just kind of position and place the club in this case so the club face is completely pointing downwards, it's completely closed. Then how could we move, how can we move through, for example, through lower limb, through the hands, through the pelvis, through the ground reaction force, through that rib cage, to then allow that club to then be aligned in what would be somewhat that kind of square position. And then once you're feeling very kind of comfortable and very aware of this, we can actually then play a few kind of small chips. At best, it's 10-15 yard shots, maximum the idea of that kind of green side kind of pitch shot length. So once again, into that start position, manipulate that club so it's completely closed then, and then can we start to play some small pitches. So certainly when you move well, when that face is aligned almost correctly, or certainly the aspiration of where that face likes to be at impact, the ball will then fly straight. Certainly you'll see this when we look at it from the target line view shortly. All we really can do from that closed position is get that rotation, get the hands to elevate, get those torques and those vertical forces through the floor, get those segments to rotate, to then almost move around the area to best allow that club face to then be delivered in the way we like it to be. And then viewing this very much in the target line view once again, into that start position, kind of manipulate that club so this club face is pointing completely downwards, completely vertically into that start position, manipulate the club so that we then start to move so that club is completely orientated and aligned at impact, certainly regarding one's aspiration and perception of club delivery. All we really can do from here is actively elevate through the hands, elevate, extend through lower limb, produce that rotation through those segments, and then best deliver that club in the way we like it to be. So certainly playing a very small chip shot now, position that club downwards, can we then play that small pitch? The only way the ball can go somewhat straight is through that awareness of lower limb, that rotation through the segments, the elevation through that lead hip, and through that very much the active pull up through that handle as you move into impact. So once again, club completely downwards, split hands, can we then start to manipulate the segments to produce that slight kind of 10-15 yard straight shot, to produce that rotation, compression, elevation, all those aspirations which we really like to certainly produce through kinematics and kinetics, but certainly in this case through a much more ecological approach through, for example, tool manipulation, task manipulation, and in some ways the idea of error for learning. Let's put the error in this case the club face being significantly almost closed, and then have that person then move and adapt to then best produce what would this case then be the outcome we're looking to produce.